There's a fire on the tracks, and the train's moving closer each day to that fire on the tracks. Hey, don't nobody get in the way. Feel it coming right now. Want to stop it, but how? Can't you see there's a fire on the tracks? Don't you know that you're headed for pain? Look out, there's a fire up ahead on the tracks, and it's you on the train. Yeah, it's you on the train. There's a movie somewhere in the chaotic paths of our life. There's a movie in there.
All right, folks, welcome back to the College Football Tonight, the second hour. We have Mike Burnop with us. I want to call him the mayor of Blacksburg because he's been down there so long. Yeah, so Mayor, talk about this big weekend with Notre Dame rolling into town. Is there any hotels available in the area?
There are no hotels, and if you wanted the hotel, they tripled the price on them, so they're like about $600 a night.
Oh, wow.
So they're making buck on Notre Dame, my man. And there are no tickets. Tickets are really hard to come by as well.
Yeah.
It would have been even more expensive had the Hokies not slipped up at Old Dominion, but that's the way it goes.
Right. Well, talk about Notre Dame. This is the first time Notre Dame making a trip to to Blacksburg, and they don't really go to the state of Virginia. The last time they were there, they were in Virginia playing the Cavaliers, and it was raining a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it is kind of rare, but with the ACC schedule, the funky thing is, and the weird thing about the whole deal is that, with the two divisions, some of those teams, like we've yet to play Louisville when we've been in the ACC, was my recollection. And yet we're going to play Notre Dame this year, and we're going back to Notre Dame next year, and we played Notre Dame in South Bend 2 years ago. So it's kind of an odd arrangement, but I like the fact that they're sort of in the league, and it gives you a great non-conference opponent every few years. And obviously never being here before is certainly big, just like it was for our fans when they went to South Bend 2 years ago and pulled off the win.
Yeah, let's talk about Notre Dame. They have Ian Book as the quarterback. Winbush started the year. So what does Coach Fuente have to do, and Coach Foster got to do to stop Ian Book?
Well, he's been really solid. I mean, you can't fault the change because the kid's thrown for 74% completion and 7 touchdowns, no interceptions. So, it seems like Coach Saban started the trend last year in the national championship game where if your number one quarterback's not getting the job done, you're not afraid to pull the trigger. That's why you make the big bucks. So the same thing kind of there. Wimbush just wasn't getting the job done, and Book has. So I think, you got to try to make him uncomfortable, and you got to try to keep him in the pocket and get him on the ground because you give him time. He's got some good wheels, but he's got a really good arm, and he can hurt you without question. So the game plan will try to be to make him uncomfortable and try to get him down.
Yeah. Well, talk about Ryan Willis. I saw him during the spring game, and a kid from Kansas, had been thrown into the fire because Josh Jackson broke his leg, and he's probably out for the rest of the year. So what did he bring to the game last week against Duke?
Well, he's got a stronger arm than Josh, and as a matter of fact, anybody else that is a quarterback at Virginia Tech. He's got the best arm without question. Mm-hmm. He was 0-10 at Kansas as a starter. He got forced to play as a true freshman, wasn't ready for it, and they didn't have the pieces around him. So it was a struggle. So, he appreciates this opportunity because he never thought he'd get another chance to play at this level, much less start. And if Josh Jackson doesn't get hurt, he probably doesn't start. Mm-hmm. So he's got a better feel for the game. I think last week helped him in terms of his confidence, playing on the road against the ranked Duke team after coming off, a tough loss. So I think it was very important, and, the game means a lot to him. And I think if he doesn't get rattled and plays within himself, he'll be fine because he has enough weapons around him to help him out.
Yeah, so you were playing for the team, for the Hokies. You were the tight end. Having teams like Notre Dame come into your stadium for the first time, like Oklahoma State, Texas A&M, LSU, even Ohio State a couple years ago, that was a prime time game. What's the crowds like with seeing these schools coming into Blacksburg?
It's really cool, and it's been like that for a while. But, the Thursday night games kind of put Virginia Tech on the map. And so anytime you have a night game at any point in the season, it's pretty cool. And the Hokie Nation gets fired up for it. There'll be fireworks here Saturday night, and hopefully they'll be able to set them off. And, there's no other there's nothing like an atmosphere of a night game in Lane Stadium, because the fans will be tailgating all day till Saturday, so they can tailgate all day. The weather's supposed to be beautiful, and they'll be lit up and jacked up, especially having Notre Dame come here for the very first time.
And having it as a prime-time game on ABC, that would be great to show off the campus and the stadium, and maybe help with some recruiting as well.
Yeah, there'll be a bunch of recruits here, without a doubt, and what a game to showcase that. And the other thing that's kind of going to be kind of cool, Chris, is that they're going to unveil a statue, a monument to Coach Beamer, and they're going to do that at about 4:30 on Saturday afternoon. So that's going to be really cool. Coach Beamer, well deserving of every honor. He's going into the College Football Hall of Fame here in December, get the Bear Bryant Award, Lifetime Achievement Award in January. So they're going to honor him Saturday before the game. So that'll be a little other added thing, and it'll be a jacked up Lane Stadium on steroids Saturday night.
So you being an analyst, let's put your analyst hat on. If this game was tomorrow, what does Virginia Tech got to do to beat a top-ranked Irish squad? It's 5-0, and technically they should be 4-1, 4-2, because they barely beat Ball State, and Vanderbilt basically put them to the test at the end of the game.
Yeah, exactly, and it's going to be interesting. All the cliche stuff, is one thing with the turnovers and all that, but I think in this game it's going to be the little things. It's like, who's going to drop passes, who's going to be better on third down conversions and keep the ball and keep the other offense off the field. Who's going to come up with a big play here or a big play there, the hidden yardage. Is a field goal kicker going to miss a kick? Is a punter going to shank one? Is it going to be a kick blocked? I think it's going to be the little things in a game like this that will decide it. And for Virginia Tech, they're going to have to take some chances. Notre Dame's defense is really good, so they're going to have to try to get the ball down the field and try to win some of those one-on-one matchups, because there's going to be a lot of them in this game. And again, I think it's going to be that situation. Our defense is kind of young, and they're going to have to win some of the one-on-one matchups defensively. So I think it'll matter. The little things will really add up in this game.
Yeah. Well, Mike, thank you so much. I know you've been a busy guy. Thank you for taking some time with us. I appreciate you coming on every week with us, or every other week when there's a big game down there, and hopefully we'll talk more. And real quick, how was that big win on Labor Day night against Florida State? How did that feel?
That was huge. I don't think anybody knew maybe how good or bad Florida State was going to be going forward. But for a young defense like Virginia Tech had, to go on the road and play that well and get a solid, convincing win was certainly big for a young team to have confidence and get their swagger up moving forward. With a young group, though, it's just hit and miss. You go to Old Dominion, you can't explain losing to a team like that when the backup quarterback comes off the bench and throws for almost 500 yards. So you're going to have ups and downs with a young team, but to go on the road and beat Florida State was really big for this team.
Yeah. Well, Mike, thank you so much. Enjoy the game, and we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good, Chris. You take care. Thanks for calling, and we'll check up with you down the trail.
All right, we'll be right back here in the College Football Tonight.
He come on flat top, he come grooving up slowly. He got two eyeballs, he won holy roller. He got hair down to his knee. Got to be a joker, he just do what he please. He wear no shoe shine, he got Georgia football, he got monkey finger, he should Coca-Cola. He said, I know you, you know me. One thing I can tell you is you got to be free. Come together right now over me. He back production, he got Morris Gumbel, he got Arnold Side. together right now over me. You're so hard to see. Come together right now over me.
Back to the college football tonight, and we have Bob Black, the voice of the Richmond Spiders, with us. Richmond coming off a tough loss to JMU, and this week they welcome home a former coach back to Richmond and Delaware, and Coach Danny Rocco. So talk about this homecoming, almost a source for Coach Rocco, who basically just left and went to Delaware.
Yeah, I think this year it's a little more about Danny Rocco returning than his players seeing him on the other sideline and talking to some of our guys already this week. They feel like they kind of went through that last year when the Spiders played at Delaware, and they were able to exchange pleasantries and hellos with Coach Rocco and the assistants who made the trek up I-95 with him. So I don't think there's quite as much emotion from the Richmond guys this time around. I think there will be from Danny Rocco and the assistants who are coming back to Richmond for the first time. They spent 5 very successful seasons at the University of Richmond and at Robins Stadium. And the bitter irony, I guess, of Saturday, depending on which side of the field you're on, is that Coach Rocco gets a shot at career win number 100.
Oh, wow.
Get it on the same field where he won a quarter of those games, a little bit more than a quarter of those games, 26 of those games, or 25 of those games on the sideline for the Spiders.
So what's the feeling around Richmond with him coming back? Is there a lot of anger? Is there a lot of like, oh, he's back, big deal? So what is the fans, are they the fans sending you messages to talk about this game?
Well, I think it's mixed. I think there's a pretty good majority of respect for what he did for the Spider program. I mean, he did win 43 games in 5 years, 3 straight playoff appearances, the first Spider coach to ever go to 3 straight playoff appearances. So there's that side of it. I think there's probably a little bit of resentment and disgruntlement in the way he left and some of the things that he said when he left. And he went to another school within the same conference within the CAA. So I think it's mixed, certainly, with him coming back. On the other hand, I think a lot of people are just as focused on what's going to happen to turn things around for this year's Richmond Spider team. I think they are much more focused on that than who's coaching the team on the other sideline.
Yeah, so what went wrong last week? Because it was close in the first quarter, and then JMU just literally took over, and I looked up at Towson, it was like 50 whatever to 10. I was like, you got to be kidding me. It was the third quarter. So what happened?
Yeah, one of the things I've been saying about JMU, and week after week, and I'm sure you've seen it, they are prohibitive favorites. It doesn't matter who they're playing. They're 25, 30-point favorites. I mean, take a look at this week. This is a top 10 matchup that they have this week with Elon, and they're 25-point favorites. So it's a lot more about what JMU has, I think, than what the other teams have or don't have. Now, that said, for the second straight week, the Spiders saw momentum shift dramatically because of a game-changing play. 2 weeks ago against Stony Brook, they were at the 5-yard line, fumbled a pitch, scoop and score for Stony Brook, and I don't think the Spiders ever recovered from that. Last week, they were down 14-3, second and goal at the 9-yard line, and they throw a pick-six to Jimmy Moreland, who goes 100 yards with the interception return. And instead of it being 14-10, it's 21-3. That's significant, and the Dukes never looked back, and the Spiders never got back in the game. So the Spiders have to figure out a way to minimize the turnovers. Certainly don't let them turn into touchdowns at the other end, and find a way to get touchdowns of their own when they get in the red zone.
And last year, Richmond and Delaware played each other, and it was a very good game up there. It was overtime. It was a double overtime game. So I guess you might see some of that, back from that game.
Yeah, I think that was one of the frustrating games for the Spiders last year. It was a game that, they seemingly had won. Kyle Laletta had thrown a terrific touchdown pass in the overtime. You figure at that point, once he does that, they had come back. They had blocked potential game-winning field goal at the end of regulation. Laletta throws the touchdown pass. You figure they're going to win the game. And Delaware found a way to come back and win it. So it was one of those frustrating losses last year for the Spiders, and a lot of those guys will be back playing against them again this year. Laletta, unfortunately, won't for Richmond, but they will have a lot of other people back that played in that game last year. So I think that'll be in the back of their mind a little bit as well.
So do you still talk to some of the former Spider players? How is Kyle doing being on the backup or the third-string quarterback with the Giants?
Yeah, I think this is a great opportunity and a great situation for him to be in. We were up there in the summer when they were going through minicamp, and I'll tell you, the other guy who's doing great for the Giants is a former Spiders, Kerry Wynn, on that defensive line. He is pretty much in a starting role right now. He's getting quarterback sacks, tackles for loss, really playing a significant role. And I caught up with him last week, and he said Kyle's doing fine. It's a little bit different for him right now. He has not been on the active roster on Sunday, but he is on the roster and the third-string quarterback. Kind of biding his time right now, kind of learning, from a guy who's been a two-time Super Bowl MVP and Eli Manning, and who knows how much longer he's got to go. And Kyle's a very heady guy, so he's going to be like a sponge and absorb all of this, and he'll be ready to go when it's his time.
Yeah. Well, Bob, thank you so much tonight. I hope you enjoy Saturday. Hopefully the weather's very nice, and I guess fall is coming in this area because it's supposed to be a nice fall weekend.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. 3 o'clock game at Robins Stadium. Good crowd expected, and it's a good rivalry. It's one of the better CAA rivalries, Richmond and Delaware, so we're looking forward to it. Thanks.
All right, Bob, we'll be right back here on the College Football Tonight.
Picking up the pieces of my sweet shattered dream, I wonder how the old folks are tonight. Her name was Anne, and I'll be damned if I recall her face. She left me now knowing what to do. Carefree highway, let me slip away on you. Carefree highway, you've seen better days, the morning after blues, from my head down to my shoes. Carefree highway, let me slip away on you. Turning back the pages to the times I love best, I wonder if she'll ever do the same. Now the thing that I call living is just being satisfied with knowing I got no one left to blame. Carefree highway, I got to see you, my old flame. Carefree highway, seen better days, the morning after blues, from my head down to my shoes. Carefree highway, let me slip away on you.
All right, folks, welcome back to the College Football Tonight here on Herb FM Radio. We have one of the we have Jack Nolan, who is a sideline reporter for Notre Dame football, with us tonight. Notre Dame making a trip to Blacksburg for the first time this weekend to play a tough Hokie squad. So, Jack, thanks for joining us tonight. Let's talk about this trip to Blacksburg. Have you ever been to the? I know you guys went to a couple years ago in Charlottesville, but were you part of that broadcast when you guys played in the state of Virginia?
I've seen the stadium. Notre Dame's never played there in football before, but I'm also Notre Dame's basketball play-by-play announcer, so we're in Blacksburg all the time playing at Castle Coliseum, so it's a beautiful campus, a beautiful area. About 65,000 seat stadium, but most of the seats are on the sidelines, and we are told that it is a very intense atmosphere. So the team's been listening to Enter Sandman during practice all week, so they should be ready for what they're going to face.
Yeah. Well, talk about Notre Dame. They're 5-0. They just played Stanford. They're in the top 10. You know, what do they got to do to knock off a Hokies defense that's very young? And there's a quarterback change because Josh Jackson's out and Ryan Willis is in for Coach Fuente.
Well, I mean, they want to keep doing what they've been doing all year, which is getting better and better each and every week, each unit, and have each unit's play complement the play of the others. For example, on defense, this has been a big play defense all season long, but it is getting stingier and stingier. Virginia Tech's strength, even with the quarterback change with Ryan Willis, is still passing the football. They have not run it that well, but they throw it very, very well. I think they're the 16th ranked team in passing efficiency this season. Willis is the ACC quarterback of the week for throwing for over 300 yards against Duke at Duke last week when Duke was ranked for that win by Virginia Tech. So they want to contain certainly the passing game and continue to limit Virginia Tech's ability to run the football. And flipping it the other way, Notre Dame just wants to have the balanced offense that they have been having. They've been gaining over 500 yards a game, fairly easily split between running and passing since Ian Book came in to take over at quarterback, and that's the same thing they want to do. And what they are avoiding, a lot of Irish fans will remember Notre Dame didn't handle the atmosphere at Miami last year. They walked into a buzzsaw, Miami waiting for years to get another shot at Notre Dame on their home turf. You could go to the ESPN 30 by 30 about Catholics versus convicts and give whatever reason you want. But when Hard Rock Stadium is sold out and Miami is fired up for a game, it's a tough place to play, and Notre Dame wasn't ready. They haven't dwelled on that, but beginning in the spring and throughout fall camp, they have been dealing with what they call chaos. Lots of loud music in practice, lots of loud crowd noise, rapid-fire decision-making with loud noise, so that they would not have the same kind of stumble that they did last year when they faced that kind of a hostile crowd.
Mm-hmm. Is that good that Brian Kelly made that switch from Winbush to Book? Because Book won the bowl game last year against LSU, and I've talked to some of the Notre Dame fans around here. They thought that he should be the starting quarterback to start game against Michigan. But why did Kelly go with Winbush?
Winbush's numbers were better last year. His quarterback rating was better last year.
Mm-hmm.
He had 6 interceptions the entire season. Book in limited play had 4.
Okay.
He went with Winbush because at the time Winbush was the better quarterback. Beginning this year, until he continues to say this, and I don't disagree, they don't beat Michigan and that aggressive defensive line that pressures the quarterback without Winbush's ability to run the football. I mean, Winbush had a 200-yard rushing game last year. He's more mobile. He's a bigger threat to run. The Irish receivers, quite honestly, weren't ready early this season and weren't that good last season overall either. Even Equanimity St. Brown didn't necessarily live up to his potential.
Mm-hmm.
He went with Winbush early because it was a huge challenge, and at that time thought he was the better quarterback. Both led them to victory, certainly in Citrus Bowl, but that victory was earned by a ball that kind of threw up for grabs that Boykin grabbed with a spectacular catch and turned into a long touchdown. As this season went along, they were limiting their playbook for Brandon Winbush to call it for Brandon's strengths. Brandon does have a stronger arm, but he's not as accurate on short passes. Ian Book, with the receivers getting better and better, and the offensive line, which struggled the first 2 games, getting better and better, they got to a point where they wanted to open up the entire playbook, made the change at Wake Forest, and became a much better offense at that time. But it was a combination. The change wasn't made just because Brandon Winbush wasn't playing well. Brandon was probably playing to his capabilities, but the rest of the offense has gotten to a level to best exploit Ian Book's abilities. And, I would expect him, for the majority, if not all of the rest of the season, to be the starting quarterback. There are still those teams where they really would load the box and with a heavy pass rush at times, where Brandon Winbush certainly can help you taking some snaps.
Well, let's talk about the Irish defense. You know, a couple weeks ago they gave up over 200 yards to Wake Forest, and last week they shut down Bryce Love and Stanford. So is that something they have to improve on?
Did you say give up over 200 yards to Wake Forest in a game they scored 56 points?
Right, pretty much. But still, 200 yards on the ground. That's
They did that because they had the second and third team in the game for much of the second half. That's why they gave up that yardage. When the starters were in there, they almost completely shut down the Wake Forest offense.
Okay.
You can't just read stats. You got to look at what happened in the game. They gave up that yardage because the game was over and they were playing younger players.
Okay. Well, anyway, but the defense, it seems like they're getting better, right?
No, there's no question that they're getting better each and every week. They have a very experienced and deep defensive line to the point where against Wake Forest they were able to do hockey changes where they were changing 4 and even 5 guys at the same time, running them on and off, which you have to do against an up-tempo defense. They've got 2 stud middle linebackers, in Coney and Tranquil. They don't have a lot of depth there. They got a lot of young potential there. And they've got a secondary that is much better than last year. So it's the development of the defensive line and the secondary that is just better than it was last year. Alohi Gilman, who wasn't eligible after transferring from Navy last year, they appealed and did not get his eligibility. He's playing, and the other guys who are playing safety are just a year better. And certainly Julian Love, one of the best corners in the country.
Yeah. Well, Jack, thank you so much tonight. I hope you have a safe trip to Blacksburg, and I hope you enjoy that primetime game on ABC.
Oh, we always will. Thank you very much for having me.
All right, we'll be right back here on the College Football Tonight.
Stuck inside these 4 walls, sent inside forever, never seeing no one nice again like you. If I ever get out of here, thought of giving it all away to a registered charity. All I need is a pint today. If I ever get out of here, if we ever get out of here.
College Football Tonight. We're going to talk to the voice of the Miami Hurricanes, Joe Zasaki, with us. Joe, thanks for joining us. A big rivalry game this weekend between Miami and Florida State. How many Miami-Florida State games have you broadcast over your career?
Oh, probably 30.
Okay. So you've been just like you and Gene Deckenhoff. So do you have any memories of Miami and Florida State games that you remember?
Well, let's see, 1983, Miami played Florida State in Tallahassee with a Orange Bowl game on the line, and Jeff Davis hit a field goal in the final seconds to win it for Miami after Keith Griffin took a handoff on a draw play. Bernie Kosar directed the come-from-behind win. I think Miami trailed 16-3 in that game, and Jeff Davis won with a field goal. Michael Irvin caught a long pass down the sideline, 77 yards. over the top of Deion Sanders after Miami trailed big in that game and went on to beat Florida State and win the national championship. So wide right 1, wide right 2, wide left, you name it, it's all happened in the series.
Yeah. Well, the last time Florida State played down there was down there at Hard Rock. Yeah, it was a good game, but they blocked the extra point. So what does Miami have to do to not have that problem happen again?
Well, probably have to find a way to generate a really good run game and break the will of Florida State. Florida State's defense this year has struggled quite a bit because they got a new scheme. They have very good players, but they have a new scheme, so they've had trouble adjusting to that. And I think Miami has to show a sense of physicality with their offensive line. They've got to be able to run the football, and they've got to be able to break the will of Florida State. If Florida State's hanging around the fourth quarter, that's probably not a good recipe for Miami. Now, on the other side of the ball, Florida State's had a tough time staying on the field, establishing and sustaining long drives. And so for Miami, they can't give up the big play. They've got to put Francois in tough situations, be able to make him feel their pass rush. He's the heartbeat of their offense. He's the guy that makes it go, but they rely on big plays. So Miami cannot give up big plays.
Well, talk about Perry being the quarterback coming in last week against North Carolina. What did you like? What did you like during that game?
He didn't have to do a whole lot. Miami's defense scored 3 touchdowns, so I'd like to see a repeat of that. He just didn't have to do a whole lot. He was 8 for 12, so we didn't really see a lot. The passes that he did complete were on target. He was accurate, made good decisions. But for him to be successful in the game against Florida State, not only does he have to throw the ball well and accurately, he's going to have to hit deep passes. Because Florida State, the concept of their defense is we're going to hit your quarterback before you can hit us deep down the field. So he's going to have to hit some deep passes to his wide receivers. But more than anything, he's got to protect the ball. He's turned it over 4 times in 3 games, 3 turnovers and a fumble. And he's probably going to get hit harder in this game than he's ever been hit in his life. So he's got to be prepared for that, make sure that he protects the ball. Otherwise, that'll be a tough day for Miami.
So do you think Miami should be establishing the run game because they got to get Dallas going, and will that help open up the passing lanes?
Yeah, I think that's the number one priority. And this is a series where the history says the team that usually wins their run game wins the game. Now, that wasn't the case last year, but there's no question that Miami has to go to get have a balanced attack and get DJ Dallas and Travis Homer running the football well. They cannot be in a drop-back game. What Florida State does well is rush the passer and create chaos. And Miami does not want to put N'Kosi Perry in that situation.
Yeah, Coach Rick today on the teleconference call said it's going to be a very hot game down there on Saturday. So good for both squads. So what do they have to do to keep people fresh from not overheating and dehydration, all that stuff?
Well, for Miami, it's get your subs into the game. They've got some depth on their offensive line. They play 7 or 8 players on their offensive line. Same thing on the defensive line. So you just got to roll those guys in and out. Miami practices in this all the time. So Saturday's not going to be anything new to them. Temperature's expected to be 88 degrees. It's been 88 degrees and above since May 1st. So the heat's not going to be anything new to the University of Miami. Maybe for some of those big guys for Florida State, they've got a guy that's 385 pounds on their defensive line. They've got another guy that's 350 pounds. So Florida State might be more concerned about than Miami. I guess what Florida State would like to do is run a lot of plays. That's the concept behind the no-huddle offense, run a lot of plays. They ran 88 plays 2 weeks ago. Certainly, Miami doesn't want their defense out there for 88 plays.
That's true. Well, Joe, thank you so much for joining me tonight, and I hope you enjoy the broadcast Saturday, and good luck and enjoy the rest of your season.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, we'll be right back here on the College Football.
Walks right down the street, way down low. Ain't no sound but the sound of his feet. Machine guns ready to go. Are you ready? Hey, are you ready for this? Are you standing on the edge of your seat? Out the doorway, the bullets river to the sound of the beat. Hey, hey, hey,
segment, we're going to switch gears. We have Darphus Pearson III, who does a lot of stuff for Rivals.com with the folk, with the North Carolina stuff down there. And this week he's actually going to the Boston College NC State game. So let's talk about that game coming up. Boston College is pretty good, and NC State basically still undefeated.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. First and foremost, Mr. Chris, hello to you and all your listeners out there on Herb FM. I appreciate the opportunity. I'm glad to be here. As you said, my name is Darphus Pearson III. I am a member of Tar Heel Illustrated as well as Out Straight Illustrated and NC Press Illustrated of the Rivals Yahoo Sports Network, and also an ACC columnist for the South Boston News and Record in South Boston, Virginia. So I'm glad to be here, elated for the opportunity. As you stated, we have a great ACC matchup this weekend. We have 4-0 NC State at home versus 3-1 Boston College. This is going to be a big, big test for the Wolfpack. They lead the ACC and actually rank 9th in the FBS in the passing offense with 342.3 yards per game, which is pretty impressive if I do say so myself. Coach Dave Dorn and his staff have done an impeccable job of getting that offense fine-tuned and ready for the 2018 season, and all of their hard work is really showing with these first 4 games. They currently boast the ACC's second leading passer and graduate senior quarterback Ryan Finley, and the third wide receiver the third wide receiver in the ACC in receiving yards in Kelvin Harmon. So they definitely have weapons. Even outside of those guys, we've seen the emergence of former walk-on redshirt freshman wide receiver Thayer Thomas. I mean, this kid had an absolute dominating performance against Georgia State, had 9 receptions for 119 yards, 1 touchdown. They actually called a trick play where they ran a reverse, and he threw a 56-yard pass to true freshman running back Trent Penix. So he definitely emerged as a reliable playmaker for Coach Dorn in the pack. Also, we have, in conjunction with Harmon and Thayer Thomas, we have Emeka Enike, who is an absolute dominating player. Emeka Enike, he ranked 16th in the ACC actually with 244 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. He's a big-bodied receiver. Last week against UVA, he had an absolutely amazing corner route touchdown catch in the end zone over a defender who was absolutely smothering him. He's a big kid. He knows how to win those 50-50 matchups, and he really attacks the ball at the highest point, and he's definitely